Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rachayata, and on behalf of the entire team of Logistics Insider, I wish you all a very happy New Year 2023 and welcome you to the curtain raiser event of the India Supply Chain Conference 2023. Talking of supply chain ecosystem in India, we've come a far way from where we were a few years ago. It might not be an apt thing to say, but the pandemic did bring about a much needed wave of change, and we only go up from this point. The Indian economy is rising at a rapid pace, and to ensure that its flight is not disrupted, a well oiled supply chain mechanism is of paramount importance. Overall or holistic development is another essential. This means that we not only focus on improving our strengths, but simultaneously uplift our weaknesses too. With the aspirations of achieving such holistic growth in supply chain, the benefits of which will trickle down to the development of the whole economy, the Chamber of Visionary Supply Chain Leaders and Logistics Insider are organizing the India Supply Chain Conference, that is ISCON 2023 in Gurugram on the 19th of January. We'd like to thank our partners for sponsoring our event, our gold partner, Skyways Group, our silver partner, Ethics Group of Companies, our lanyard partner, Gear India, and our associate partner, Excel Supply Chain Solutions. The first edition of CVSCL's annual event, ISCON, will revolve around the theme Future Proofing Supply Chains for a New India and will include three insightful panel discussions on some of the most trending topics revolving around the Indian supply chain and the logistics ecosystem. We are also honored to receive the confirmed participation of Dr. Surendra Ahirwar, Joint Secretary Logistics, DPIIT Ministry of Commerce and Industry, as the chief guest of the event. The show will provide a platform for industry leaders as well as policymakers who are experts at their work to share ideas and best practices, which will aid in taking the industry to the zenith. Another important highlight of the event is going to be a startup challenge, where few of the most innovative supply chain startups will get a platform to present their business ideas to supply chain leaders and stand a chance to win the very coveted Supply Chain Trailblazers Award. So, taking this forward, I'd like to invite Mr. Umesh Madhyan, President CVSCL and Vice President Logistics, Hindustan Coca Cola Beverages, to address our audience and extend a formal invitation. Mr. Madhyan leads what can be called one of the most complex supply chains that a brand can operate. During more than 2 decades, he has been instrumental in formulating and implementing key supply chain strategies with an innovative and competitive edge. With his dexterity and positive outlook, he's been around since 2013, planning and executing key supply chain functions for Coca Cola. He's also steering. He's also a steering committee member for AmCham, CII, and USIBC. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. A happy new year 2023 from CVSCL. And we are glad that we're partnering with Logistics Insider, who is one of the leading network enabler for us for doing an event like this. So first of all, let me give you a glimpse of what CVSCL is all about. She read about a lot of committees which I steer for and I work very closely with. But why is CVSCL different and why is there a need of something like CVSCL? So what we believe broadly is only on best practice sharing and what impacts the supply chain industry. What is it that the supply chain industry needs as of now? We are at a cusp where there is a lot of innovation, technology disruption, digital disruption, which is happening all across. And how can we partner and make sure that we create that awareness in the industry? How can we evaluate solutions together? How can we understand the upcoming trends globally as well as in India? How can we embrace startups, for example? That's one of our themes which we have chosen for 2023. how do we make sure that we give them the right platform, and make sure that we continue to try new things, continue to innovate, and continue to challenge the status quo. That's broadly what we believe into. And CVSCL, by now you know what it is. We have been a cohort of 30, 35 plus companies which come together every month. We have best practice sharings of what's happening in great multinational Fortune 500 companies. We are largely believers of practitioners who need to adapt new technologies, new vendors, new solutions, new disruptive ideas, and make sure we make a better supply chain. So that's broadly what we stand for. This is one of the event which is not a usual award giving event which anybody else does. This is not a usual event where four people come, they talk over a panel, and they give some gyan and they move out. That is not something which we are wanting to do. We are trying to choose topics which impacts the industry the most. We are trying to choose topics which demonstrate our value of sharing best practice and make sure that people see value by joining CVSCL, make sure people are getting engaged and they are also seeing what they can bring back to their organization, to the community, to the fraternity. That's what we are trying to do through giving a demonstration, which is a small event which is being planned by all of us. So, with that, let me invite each and every logistician, each and every supply chain professional in the country and also outside to join CVSCL and to join this demonstration of CVSCL in the event, where we will discuss these very relevant topics to the current context of supply chain in India and globally. Thank you so much. And please make sure that you attend as an industry and fight with all the problems we have on supply chain and logistics as one force. Thank you so much. Rachita, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Madhyan, for your inspiring words. And here's hoping that ISCON 2023 will bear the sweetest fruits for the industry as planned. Moving on, I'd like to now introduce you to a man who's famous in the supply chain fraternity for his infectious energy and his sunshine smile. He's the heir to one of the biggest freight forwarding companies in India and has been instrumental in the brisk expansion of his organization across continents. A decorated supply chain leader, he is known to be a go getter, and not many have been spared from the zealous vibes he passes on. He dons a hat with many feathers, and I am sure a fan. Revealing the man behind the mystery, let's meet our host for the event, the very enigmatic and charismatic Mr. Yashpal Sharma, Managing Director Skyways Group and President Air Cargo Forum India. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Shweta. Hi, Umesh. Thank you very much for that very lovely introduction. I'm not sure if everything fits me, but I'll try and live up to what you've spoken. Thank you very much.
So, as I said, I'm a fan. So, before you take this curtain raiser event forward, I'd like to get a few minutes of your time. Firstly, since we are in the the maiden week of 2023, how do you think this year will turn out for the industry, both overall for the supply chain industry and specifically for freight forwarding in India?
Well, it's a very interesting phase compared to how we started last year. 2022 brought in with a huge amount of capacity constraints for everybody, especially on the international front, whether it was air freight or ocean freight. Both were really struggling for capacity. But this year, it's just the complete reverse. We're seeing some recessive talks from across the seas, and there's abundance of supply in the market in terms of capacity, whether it is by ocean or by air. So nobody's struggling with capacity currently. What I think is it's just more a very temporary phase, though people have been talking of an extended recessive period extending right through 2023 and maybe part of 24. But I really think it's just very short lived. It's a matter of another 3 to 4 months that we will start seeing traction. We're already seeing a decent traction from the US and the other parts of Area 1. Europe is still in a bit of a slow phase, but I'm quite confident that we're going to see this come up. European market will also start to push up for the business over the next 3 to 5 months. So exciting times for freight forwarding community, logisticians. We are always adapting. We know that market never remains the same. Market from one day to another is always different. So we are always very very adaptive. We are born with these skills of adapting to any and every day. Maybe on an hourly basis we can change ourselves.
Well, with the tremors from the war and from with COVID picking up again, uh, I see that you're pretty hopeful. And but I mean, if I talk about what I think, uh, it's going to be somewhat, like a bumpy ride. I'm sure we're going to go up, and there are possibilities for many things. Um, and I think the freight forwarding industry in general, both domestic as well as international, needs to be prepared for what's coming next, and show some agility. Now, my next question to you would be around sustainability. It's one of the most talked about topics since the past couple of years, more so in the last year. Where do you see this discussion going in this year?
I think it's a topic which has been trending across industries, not just logistics, and every industry is possibly trying to explore how they could contribute towards a better environment. I think it's pretty much sitting in the forefront of many organizations. We do see in logistics as well, whether it's ports, it's airports, it's airlines, it's forwarders, it's brokers. Everybody is trying to see and contribute in whatever capacity they can towards a better and a more sustainable world. And while I would not say that a lot has been done already, there's a lot that needs to be done. There are talks that are happening across, but action on the ground is probably a little less than what it should be. So I'm pretty confident that organizations like CBSA, SEL, and other forums like ACFI, they are leading from the front in trying to discuss best practices. We just heard Umesh talk about the best practices in the industry, and they're not just talking about best practices in production or supply chain. They're also talking and discussing how sustainability could be imbibed by various organizations. And so is logistics doing the same. And I'm pretty confident that we will have a lot of action on this side in 2023 and beyond.
Mr. What are your views on this?
No, I think okay. So first of all, let's have some contradictory views on this. My feeling is that yes, there is recession and all that news on the cards from end of Q2 to Q3, and that's broadly in the western part of the world in US. I don't think India is going to get affected by that. That those trends are not there. Why? Because India is a very different cusp right now. It is somewhere where the consumer is getting more aware, somewhere where the propensity to consume is going up. It is somewhere where the India ABC, the C rural is shrinking and the A and the B urban, semi urban is expanding. It is somewhere where the startups are the highest overall. I think from every macroeconomic angle, India is more prepared to face any such situation in 2023. There is no one, I think, prepared better than India from a market standpoint. That's point number one. Point number two, sustainability, I think Yash brilliantly touched upon, is now no more an extra function. It's no more something good to have. It's actually what we call as a license to operate. It is something which is a super must, which goes very hand in hand with your cost strategy or your service strategy. There is an equally important sustainability strategy. We, for example, have signed off our sustainability goals till 2025, and we are ready to partner with any OEM who can start an electric vehicle of a size which we want, and migrate as much as we want. So and it's again, Yash bang on. It's not logistics. It's digital factories. It's solar panels for ASRS. It's solar panels for manufacturing, wind energy. People are also talking about, since we're talking best practices, they're talking about trigen, which is a trigen generation of power across digital factories where you can save a lot of energy and get into more sustainable actions. So I think that is something which is also booming. which I don't think will get stopped in 2023. This is the year for supply chain, according to me, because this is the year for India, and I strongly believe there is a lot which we can do, and that this event should be a brilliant start for people to take ideas and build strategies and goals and plans for 2023, and make sure they take away those crisp action points which can help them build a supply chain which is innovative through some startup ideas, a supply chain which is more sustainable, and a supply chain which is more, I think, equipped for the volume which we are going to get into. So that's my 2 cents.
Right, right. Sustainability. I think it's when it comes to sustainability, it's high time that we take our efforts a notch up. And thankfully, majority of the organizations are moving in that direction. And well, that was a really interesting mini conversation there, and it only gives me an idea of how ISCON 2023 is going to be. Very interesting, very knowledgeable. On that note, I'd like to take an exit and hand over the reins of the show to you, Yash sir. Uh, please carry the show forward.
Thank you, Racheta. Thank you very much. Thank you. So let's get on with things. It's a curtain raiser for this lovely event, which is going to happen on the 19th of January. I'm pretty excited about it. Like we heard just now, that the entire supply chains of the world are constantly evolving themselves. Rather, I think there has been transformational changes in the last few years that we've seen. The way people produce, the way people store, the way people move, and the way people sell, everything has seen a huge transition over the last few years, especially in the last 30 months. I think most organizations of the world, most supply chains of the world have probably gone through a sea change. It's something that we are seeing from the way probably everybody used to source their goods maybe from one supplier, or two suppliers have gone to multiple suppliers. Maybe the way they store goods, where they were either storing goods only at the point of origin of a raw material, or probably bringing the raw material closer to their factories, or where they produce goods. For now, where it has probably moved into a multiple stocking points, and it may not be at the originating country, it may not be even at the producing country, but probably at a third place. The same is what is happening on the distribution side. Great omni-channel strategies by most customers today, in the way they reach out to customers, in the way they brand their products, the way they create new customers for themselves. I think we are all in a very, very exciting times. We just heard Umesh about 2023 being India year. I think the next 2 to 3 decades are actually sure to be India years. I think we are at the right place at the right time. All of us who are in work currently, there is a huge set of opportunities that we have, which will enable us to probably go and bend our back as much as we want. We can grow our businesses as much as we want. The critical factors, of course, that would be is how businesses, for example, within the country, move from more of the metros into the tier 2, tier 3 cities, even to the villages. How we are able to not just brand our products in those markets, we are able to probably position our products for sale there, and at the same time make sure that the customer actually is able to get their goods in the way that they wanted and in the time frame they wanted. It's extremely important. While a lot of businesses have moved from the traditional way of sales, so has the distribution. The way businesses get sold. I mean, e-commerce is thriving today, and which means that there's a lot of digitalization and automation which is happening in the supply chains to meet the demand of the customers, whether it is on the produce side or on the sell side. Both ways, the supply chain industry or the logistics industry is also evolving itself to make sure that they're able to use the right tools, which will make sure that the supply chains of the tomorrow are able to be serviced by them. So I think it's a very interesting time. And we spoke on sustainability just now, that what a huge importance does sustainability bring to the forefront, and how are we going to see the supply chain players, logisticians, to be making sure that they also bring about the requisite changes in the way they store and move goods, which is more environmentally friendly. And I'm very excited with the panel that I have. The moderators that we have for the show on the 19th, and we have three extremely lovely moderators for this event. I would like to go jump in and bring them on and share their perspective on their respective sessions that they have. Let me bring in the first panelist, the first moderator for the show, which is Mr. Chetan Kamria, who's a business leader and supply chain professional. Racheta, can we have him on, please? Thank you. Hi, Chetan. Welcome to this curtain raiser. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Yash. Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon to you. Very good
Thank
afternoon.
you. Thank you for having me and wishing you all a fantastic 2023.
Thank you very much. Wish you all the same. Let me just give a quick introduction about you to the audience. Before we jump into a bit of a discussion. So Chetan is a business leader and a supply chain professional with an experience of more than 2 decades in the Indian and international markets. He's currently the founder and MD of Excel Supply Chain Private Limited. It's a company which is a 3PL into supply chain services. He's also the director and treasurer and the governing board member of CVSCL. Prior to founding the supply chain venture, he held senior leadership positions in various multinational corporates. Chetan was the vice president and whole-time director on the board of Pernod Ricard India. He was also the director supply chain at Baxter India, a global healthcare corporation, and worked with companies like Schneider Electric, Bax Global India, and some of the others. He's a very seasoned supply chain professional with experience in Indian and international markets. He's worked apart from India in Singapore and Hong Kong and has experience across all areas of supply chain and has been involved in developing various supply chains and logistics strategies, processes, capabilities, and structures. He's an industrial engineer and management graduate and has worked in multiple industries. His experience spreads out through automotive, engineering, consumer electronics, high tech, electrical and electronics, healthcare, and food and beverages industries. Chetan, welcome to the show. And it's a pleasure to have somebody with such a vast experience moderating the first panel, which is quite an interesting and an important panel. Sits very much in line with what we have been just talking so far, the importance and relevance of tier 2 and tier 3 in the businesses today. So the title of the session is Supply Chain Fortification to Gratify Demand from Tier 2, Tier 3, and the rural markets. So I want to just open up by getting your thoughts into how this thought came into the mind of positioning a topic like this for our program.
Yeah, thanks, Yash. I think it's a very interesting topic and very relevant to the times, since we are seeing the growth of tier two, tier three, and rural India. Just to give you some background about it and to share with you that the human settlements in India, there is about 70% in the rural area, 14% in tier 2, tier 3, and 16% in the metro cities, which is tier 1 cities. So if you see, 84% of India still lives in the tier 2, tier 3, and rural areas. So that's the whole, demand, which is going to come in the retail as well as buying patterns when you see from now to 2035. And this is going to be a sea shift that we will see in the coming years in the economy. Uh, Along with this, if you see the retail expenditure, which is currently positioned, it is about 45% in the cities and 55% in the rural areas. Now, if we include tier 2 and tier 3 cities, this retail expenditure by all the people would be around 70 to 72% in the tier 2, tier 3, and rural areas, which is huge currently also. And with purchasing power parity going up, I think this is only going to increase. Now, in India, as we all know, there are about 766 districts. Out of this, there are about 8 cities which are classified as tier 1, namely the metros.
Right.
And there are about 104 cities which are tier 2 cities, and the rest is all tier 3, tier 4, and rural India. So you can see the whole possibility of demand which is going to be generated out of this. It's huge and humongous. So that's the future that we have to look at, and that's where we have to strengthen our supply chains to this growing demand, which is going to be fueled with the expenditure, with the increasing purchasing power parity with these consumers. So that's the first thought which came into mind, to look at something which will be very focused on these growing demand patterns.
Great. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds very, very exciting that, such 80+% of the business sits outside of these metros. And there's definitely a lot for everybody to do and get. So we can just imagine 1.4 billion people in India. What does it hold for each one of us? They're very exciting times. More and more customers could be added to our portfolios as we get along. So great. Let me just ask you, a few things that probably are much required while we, get out of the metros and we want to service the smaller cities of the country. The one of the biggest challenges that India has been plagued with is the road infrastructure. It's very important, the rail and road infrastructure in the country. While we're seeing a lot of transformation, we hear great news even on LinkedIn. We keep hearing Mr. Gadkari talking about the expansive network that we are getting. How do you really see on the ground the state of the national and the state highways? Because they are going to be essential for bringing everything from metro where things are getting produced to the customers.
Very relevant in connecting the rural and tier 2, tier 3 cities. A few years back, I would say in the last 10 years, there has been a massive infrastructure focus by the central government and the state governments, both, I would say, in developing these connectivity. If you see, let's take an example. The state of Uttar Pradesh today has 6 expressways. Imagine. And these expressways are like, they connect these tier 2, tier 3 cities, which you earlier used to take about 4 hours to 10 hours. Now they are connected within 3 hours to 5 hours. So that's the kind of connectivity which has happened. There was bad infrastructure, toll taxes, lines and lines of trucks which were standing at these small checkpoints. Today it's all free, and it's all RFID controlled, and it's all moving very smoothly. So infrastructure development has definitely shortened the lead times and made these rural and tier 2, tier 3 cities come closer. Earlier, if you see, minimum 20 kilometers was the distance which any village would have from the other village. Now, how do you position your products in these fragmented local communities? But now what has happened is, with infrastructure development, we are seeing that they are connected through these networks, and giving the possibility for the reach to be made there.
Lovely, lovely. Now sounds very exciting. Tell me a little bit about, before I just wrap up with you. It's important to have also a right kind of warehousing setups in these tier 2, tier 3 cities, because all probably logistics parks in those regions to be able to service those businesses, because not everything can be traveled in very quick time. So you need to have, probably warehousing or distribution centers very, very close to the point of sale. So that in line with the e-commerce portfolio today of various customers, how do you see that kind of an aspect being looked at and actually getting implemented by various of the logistics companies?
So I think the infrastructure development which is happening in these tier 2 cities, and especially if you move around, there is the belt of Ludhiana, there is the belt of Rajpura, Tepla, there is the belt of Lucknow, Kanpur, then there is a belt of Indore and Bhopal. As you go into the states, these tier 2 cities have emerged as warehousing and logistics hubs. There are many logistics parks which are coming up here, which with the road infrastructure network, connectivity to tier 2, 3 cities is becoming much more easier. So that's the backbone which is getting strengthened to deliver to these tier 2 and tier 3 cities, as well as the rural areas. Now, in our panel discussion, we will be focusing on these aspects, and also the transportation part of it. That currently the transportation in these tier 2, tier 3 cities is heavily dependent on local players which control largely one or two lanes. So they run the trucks every day between two cities, and that's where their reach is, and they are tremendous in that reach. No big company, you name any Indian company which is big, cannot reach where they reach, and especially they can transport smaller loads up to 10 cases, 20 cases, 50 cases also. So that's where this SME connect is there. You know, the trading connect, the SME connect is there, and we as corporates, large corporates, multinational corporates, can also piggyback on that network and build it. The only thing is it's a fragmented network. So there comes the use of technology. We'll also in our panel touch the base of technology, how aggregation, integration of these small players can come up, and also, you know, we will discuss about the aspect of capability, capacity, technology, and aggregation. I think these will be the four key words. I'll say again: capability, capacity, technology, and aggregation. These four key words will be the strength of the rural tier 2, tier 3 city network. So capability in terms of what kind of service providers do we have, capability in terms of what kind of warehousing infrastructure do we have, what kind of capacities we are building in the network, and what kind of technology we will be using to shape this, and build this capability and capacity, and what will be the role of aggregation of these small SME and players. So that's the theme of the discussion we will be having, and I look forward to an exciting discussion with other supply chain leaders on around these topics.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think you summed it very well. Capacity, capability, technology, and aggregation will be the key as to how large corporates can collaborate with the MSMEs and bring about what we Indians do extremely well. We optimize everything available. That's the brilliance of what India does, and I'm sure the panel would be a very exciting one. A quick one, just on the branding of your panel. So what do you think would be the key takeaways for people? When you finish off the panel, what do you think would be your key takeaways?
I think the biggest key takeaway would be that what and how can they reach to these tier 2, tier 3 cities. They should have a clear roadmap in their mind, and that they will be able to implement a supply network to reach to these places.
Excellent, excellent. So huge. I think there's a huge learning from the panel that you're going to moderate, and it's going to be a very exciting one. I'm surely looking forward to it, and will probably take back a few things for my organization. That what can we do to probably penetrate some of these markets better than what we've been doing so far. Thank you, Chetan. Thank you for today, I'm very excited to look forward to your session on the 19th.
I look forward to the session on 19 myself, and thank you so much, Yash.
Brilliant, brilliant. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too.
So, okay, I'm back. So, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard Chetan talk about his panel and what is expected out of the session. Very interesting things that are probably going to be coming out, and you'll have huge takeaways if you attend the same. And I'm looking forward to as we get deeper into the panel, into the show, we will know more on who the panelists are for each of the sessions, and we look forward to doing the same. The second session of the day is actually overcoming barriers to the adoption of technology and automation. And your moderator for that session is Sujit Sahu. Could we have Sujit on the show?
Hi, Yash. Good afternoon, Yash.
Good afternoon, Sujit. Good afternoon, and a very very happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you and all the audience.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll just give you a quick brief before we get into our quick discussion. We're just a little few minutes still in the session for me to finish two of them. So Sujit Sahu has 25 years of experience in the domain of supply chain management, spanning various aspects of value chain, from new product development to sourcing to designing, supply chain planning, and execution systems. Over the last 15 years, Sujit has taken various leadership roles in leading manufacturing, consulting, and software and services companies related the subject of supply chain operations. His experience spans across industrial manufacturing, automotive, CPG, retail industries in various capacities. As a business leader and consultant, he brings working experience with several multinationals in many geographies, including China, APAC, US, UK, Japan, and India. Currently, he's the India GTM leader for SaaS Oracle. Welcome, Sujit, to our show, and thank you very much for accepting to be the moderator of this session.
My pleasure, Yash.
So, exciting topic that you have, overcoming barriers of adoption of technology and automation. We all know how important and critical digitalization or automation is to our businesses, but it is easier said than done. We knew this 20 years ago as well, and with your vast experience, you would have seen various challenges of implementing these technologies, automations, and various tools and gadgets that we have today in the business. So, what are your thoughts as to on your panel, and exactly what are we looking at while your panel sets up?
I think the big difference between, while adoption has always been a challenge, because technology innovation sort of happens faster than the business and the industry innovation. So on an innovation curve, technology always is faster in terms of change, and industry sort of lags behind and tries to catch. But I would argue that over the last 2 decades of various forms of digitalization, we are in a much better position today to adopt technology than we were even a decade earlier. And part of that reason why I say that is there's this whole huge startup ecosystem and a culture that has developed in the country. People are no longer looking for jobs in multinationals. These youngsters are so excited to build something on their own, which is a very positive sign. There is enough encouragement from the government to build very India specific purpose built technologies. And while all of this innovation is happening and the youth of the country is raring to go and solve these big challenges, on the other hand, you would see the prices of technology is actually dropping exponentially, right? If we talk about the IoTs, the sensors, these are now so cheap, it is so affordable that a lot of people can actually do projects around that. If you look at the capability of cloud technology that has been there for a decade or so, their adoption is much faster than the old systems that we used to have running ERPs and supply chain processes. And on top of that, with the latest 5G technology coming in, the access to these cloud systems, these communication tools becomes that much more easier. Will it be affordable? I guess so. If I look at cloud plus sensor technologies cost plus 5G, it's a brilliant combination for making technology much more affordable and accessible. So that's why I believe that we are in a much better position in India today to adopt technology than we were, say, 15 years back.
I can't agree more. I think the world today, and what you said is right. India today is full of fearless people who don't get bogged down with so-called big names or big MNC names. They don't care which name they work for, or even if it's a new startup that they work for. They are all raring to go and creating a mark of their own. And I also agree that we are a far better position today in terms of adoption of technologies in the country than we were for sure even 5 years ago, even if not more. And what you talked about, the accessibility and affordability of these tools available around has definitely also improved a lot. And I think with more and more competition setting in, affordability is not a challenge at all. I think it's just that people need to be today ready to change their mindset of adopting into these cloud technologies which are available. A lot of times that India sometimes has had that traditional mindset where we think, my data is my data, your data is also my data, etc., etc. All those mindsets that sit, which are always probably challenging some of the SaaS based solutions, because people want to still have their own software sitting on their desktop or a
Devices.
laptop, instead of probably sitting in somewhere in the States or somewhere in California. So how do you see this? I mean, I will do a very quick one because we're running out of time. So how do you see this as a challenge that, that probably because data is key, and, integration of systems today play a far important role than they did in the past. The systems need to integrate with each other, whether it is backward or forward integration. So how do you see that as an aspect happening in the world today?
Let me first address the data part before I come to the integration part. Now, as you can imagine, in today's world with internet and data being present everywhere, um, several governments, be it China, India, every country almost are defining their own rules and laws. They're evolving. Government of India probably is in their probably 10th revision of the data residency strategy. Now, that creates a whole bunch of problem in terms of access to technology and where that investment should happen. But I think over a period of time, over the next 5 years or 6 years, from a policy perspective, government will be a lot more reasonable on the data side. That will resolve some of those issues that today currently a lot of software providers have their data centers outside of the country. And but also it is also a great opportunity for a lot of MNCs to invest in India in data centers and make sure that the data resides here. But the most beautiful part of that whole cloud business is today I can confidently say that most of the cloud systems are far more secure than any of the on-prem systems that are available. So if people are thinking just because I have a computer in my premise, it is safe, they will be very surprised. And recent cases of All India Institute of Medical Sciences hack, the Mumbai airport hack, these are classic examples of on-prem systems which were hacked irrespective. So I would argue that people should look at more cloud as a much more secure technology than your on-prem systems. Now, coming back to the integration part, that's always been a Achilles heel for the industry because nobody has built standards as such for interoperability of systems. But I would imagine that again, the pace at which cloud technologies are evolving, the pace at which hybrid environments are evolving. Uh, Microsoft is talking to an Oracle, Oracle is talking to an Amazon. I have a feeling that the big boys in the town, once they start building integrations and infrastructure that can talk to each other, the downstream, we will get the benefits of that. And I already see that trend happening at the corporate level, at a big MNCs, all these IT technology vendors. So hopefully, over the next few years, we will see a lot more easier integration of platform to platform because big companies may have multiple platforms that they use and they may not rely on just one vendor to serve all their IT requirements.
Brilliant, brilliant. That gives us a lot of hope to organizations who want to do backward and forward integration, because that ultimately brings more efficiency, better capacity, better capabilities between two
Right.
partners to transact and ultimately service a customer. So great. I'm very excited about your session because we all see a lot of things from a user perspective, but what probably somebody like an Oracle and some of the other panelists who you will have on your panel are going to probably talk a lot about what we can do to probably fast track our digitalization or automation activity from here. So I'm pretty excited about it. So just one maybe a quick takeaway that you would like that everybody to get from your session. So this is your branding, huh? So you brand your session well.
No, so I think the audience should look forward to our session in terms of bridging this divide between the haves and the have-nots. So far, technology investments have been a territory that we always think about the big multinationals. I think there is a tremendous scope for MSMEs and mid-tier companies to also be competitive, and affordability is one of the big challenges that they have had in the past. So I would like some of those audience to really take a key takeaway in terms of the strategies and the options and the opportunities they have in the path towards digitalization. It is no longer the big boys club. It is something that they can afford. It's a question of do they have the desire and an intent. I think the infrastructure is ready, technologies are there, providers are there. So how can we make these companies access those would be one of the key takeaways from our session.
Very true. Thank you, Sujit. You've rightly said. It's no longer a luxury to have a good tech solution. It's a qualifier to be in business. If
Exactly.
you're not there, if you don't have it, you don't qualify to participate in various things. So your loss. So I'm excited. Your session should be extremely important. The first session we heard was about more about the tier two, tier three. But your session will help each of these organizations, which probably sit in any part of the world or any part of India, to probably connect their businesses into other parts of the
Exactly.
country. So
Exactly.
we spoke 1.4 billion people, guys. Each one of them can be your customer. Go and get yourself digitally connected, and Sujit will help us to know what we need to do. Thank you, Sujit. You have a great day, and it was great to have you here.
Thank you, Yash, for having me.
Thank you very much. So, Racheta, can we quickly get Venu here? So, I'm trying to finish up on time, but we're already running about 5 minutes off. So, Venu's not going to be able to put her camera. She's in an area where she's got low signal. And so, ladies and gentlemen, so the only person you see on screen is me, but you will hear her. Hi, Venu. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Yash. Thanks for having me on this curtain raiser. And I'm
Thank
really sorry for everybody that I'm not able to put my camera on. I'm on road with the family, so I don't want everybody to see my family.
you're a supply chain person. You need to know the roads, so you need to be on them sometimes. So
Of course, I started my career like that. Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. Let me do a quick introduction for Venu. So Venu is currently a VP of supply chain expert at ATC India, which is American Tower Company. She is a high performing senior business leader with 25 years of experience in supply chain strategies, processes, and cost management levels. In these years, she has delivered differentiated delivery solutions focused on delivery improvement with cost savings, business performance improvements, leveraging S&OP, setup of cross-border businesses, construction of own warehouses to shutting down of warehouses due to outsourcing versus the insourcing strategies, delivering savings through network optimization, inventory planning and control, and even sourcing of materials and services. With multiple experiences in company setups and integration, she has deep subject matter expertise in intercompany business across borders, mercantile trade, and different setups for a company in free trade zone. In the last 25 years, she has worked in different sectors like FMCG with P&G, in building materials with Kohler, and now in telecom with ATC. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to have Venu here on our show. Venu, welcome. And I'll quickly want to touch base on. I mean, you're moderating the session on sustainability. You're talking about supply chain sustainability, landing on net zero commitments. Very difficult topic, and very important topic that you have chosen to moderate. I would like you to just give some initial thoughts of yours on the topic that you have.
Yeah, Yash. Thanks, and hello, everyone. As you rightly said, it's a very difficult topic because everybody is talking about sustainability. A lot of people are taking actions on it, but I think just if I take a data in 2021, the whole point of reducing the carbon footprint actually was the lowest in the whole decade. So, the work which the companies are doing, maybe it is not totaling up to reducing the carbon footprint. And in this, ISCON 2023, it is a very important topic because COP27 just finished in Egypt in November 2022. And, the UN General Antonio Guterres, he said that, highway to climate hell, we are all moving towards highway to climate hell with our foot on the accelerator. So that's the kind of focus which sustainability needs. Otherwise, it is the prediction is by 2057 the Earth temperature would rise above 1.5 degrees centigrade, and which would already cause a lot of damage to our planet Earth. Even the sustainability development goals by UN call out, the 17 goals. The seventh goal does call out about use of clean energy. And as we all know, supply chain is the largest user of fossil fuels for the road transport, for the aviation, for cross-border movements, and also in the manufacturing side. And just so this would be an important topic for discussion. And the important thing is, as I'm seeing, how the companies are looking at impacting and delivering their net zero commitments, not just a lip service, because even in this COP27, it was called out saying, they called it global carbon project. They want saying we need to ensure that it is not just a lip service by the people, but people are actually doing what is needed to be done. And they just said it's not like a green wash. We should not be doing a green wash, but actually working on the net zero commitments by businesses, financial institutions, cities, and regions. So they have called out zero tolerance for net zero greenwashing. And that's what will be the discussion which would happen in the panel as to what the companies are doing for, arriving at the net zero commitment. Most companies have said 2030 as the net zero carbon footprint kind of a commitment. And the discussion would all be about how are they planning to do it, what are the steps they are taking, how is the leadership responding to it, and what is the help or the policy changes they need from the governments.
Very true. What you said, Venu, is very, very, very right. That is it pure lip service or greenwashing, everything under the carpet, probably what they're talking about. We need actions on the ground and we need them real, real fast. The weather is changing all around and it's changing for the worse. And we never know when the D-Day comes without us probably doing enough about it. Something that I would just like your thoughts on. You spoke about the policy making. The governments are talking about it, but how much actually is happening on the ground in terms of policies that are being put in place by the governments? Of course, yesterday I saw the government announcing a hydrogen green
So
energy
fuel.
19,000 crores being announced by them. But how much are you actually seeing work on the ground? I mean, do we need much more than what they are talking about? We don't see the EVs getting the right kind of subsidies. Probably they need much more because they're far behind the ICEs currently. So what do you think in terms of the policymakers? What exactly do you think you expect them to do?
So, Yash, I find that there would be have to be a balance between what the policies the government is making and how the companies are adapting. Like, I'll just give an example of, e-waste or the plastic waste, where the government has come out with the policy that less than a certain micron, nobody can use the plastic, right? But
Yeah.
there are manufacturing which is happening,
Hmm.
and those plastics are available everywhere. And very simply put, even on, like, look at the supply chain in our warehouses, we have to move to a certain higher thickness micron of the shrink wrapping material. Have
Yeah.
all the companies moved there?
Yeah.
And so that is again calls out the lip service versus policy making. Policy is there that you can't use the polythene, but it is being used, so it will have to go hand in hand. Even for the EV vehicle, the government is planning for the UN goal is saying that 67% of vehicles which will start selling by 2030 will be EV vehicles, or 2025 will be EV vehicles. So now even I would say the private players need to come forward and increase their supply of EV vehicles. From the awareness perspective, the consumers have awareness. More and more people are moving towards that. But if you will look at the biggest hindrance which is there in buying an EV vehicle is the charging stations. And charging stations, government cannot do much about it, but the private players have to come into setting up the, kind of the charging stations for the people who are buying the EV vehicle. So all those uh, things have to go hand in hand with the policymaker. I think government is moving in the right direction and then they cannot take drastic steps. And they are taking the steps which are needed so that the traditional business also doesn't get impacted so much. But the key things which are impacting the environment big time are addressed.
Wonderful. No, it's absolutely essential that everybody walks. It's not your world, it is our world, and we all need to participate to get to fix it for our next generations. We need to do that. You just spoke about the EVs, the charging stations, also the fuels. I mean, is there a financial feasibility of sustainable fuels currently? Because definitely in air freight, I mean, I see SAF being used in Europe. It is not even available in India. So how do you see that kind of a feasibility of green fuels being there? Because that will be very essential for adoption.
Yeah. So, if you will look at the consumption of the fuels, first of all, like let's look at Indian Railways. In India, I'm just talking right now specific to India. Indian Railways is like the largest consumer of diesel. And Indian Railways has declared that by 2030, it will go net carbon zero. So when such a behemoth organization announces that, a lot of things will government will have to turn around to all these green fuel possibilities. Nitish Gadkari is also talking about the hydrogen fuel. Apart from that, if you will look at uh, you know uh, maybe we'll have to think differently. We talk about green fuels and as an alternative to diesel, but we will have to look at not just like the gas, PNG and the CNGs, because gas, though they pollute less and they are a better source of fuel, but they are not available everywhere right now. But apart from that, as we talked about the EV vehicles, the electricity itself and the generation of electricity, that will also help in, increasing the electricity availability so that people can move away from the fossil fuels. So,
Great.
as per me, we'll have to attack the problem by the usage, wherever the consumption is the most.
Wonderful, wonderful. So when we're running out of time, just a quick last one from you. What do we have the audience to expect from your panel? What will be the key takeaways? Will they be able to get a few ideas as to how they can implement in their various organizations areas of being more sustainable?
Right. So, in the panel discussion, we would definitely be talking about the innovations which various companies are doing in using alternative energy sources, how they are looking at minimizing digital waste, and most important, we would also be discussing how sustainability has to be incorporated in the business purpose of an organization. You can no longer be just driven towards profit earning. You have to now marry the profits with the stakeholder concerns and have that in the purpose of the company. So that would be the discussion which we would be centering around.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Venu. We'll not hold you more. Be on the road, drive safe, and
Thanks a lot.
I hope you're using an EV on the drive, so it's more sustainable. I-
Yeah.
you don't have to answer that right now. We'll ask you on the 19th. But thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks
And
a lot.
you,
Thanks. Yes.
you have a great day. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you saw the moderators. You did not see one of them. You heard her, but very exciting moderators, and they have put together a great show. I'm sure 19th will be a very very exciting day. I'm looking forward to it, and so should you. There'll be a huge amount of takeaways that you can get to work on your businesses, to work on yourself, which will help you not just to bring a smile on your cash flows, on your financials, but also on the environment. So I look forward to seeing you on the 19th at the venue. Thank you very much. Rachita, back to you. This is Yashpal Sharma signing off.
Thank you, Yash sir. Well, I think infra development, tech adoption, and sustainability, the three core topics of our event, they are definitely the key aspects of the rising Indian economy and placing the country more firmly on the global supply chain map. Now, as we end today's virtual curtain raiser, I'd like to express my excitement around the main event. It is surely something that I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure our participants and the audience will be too. Not taking much time, I'll conclude by thanking Mr. Madhyan, Mr. Sharma, and our speakers, Mr. Chetan Kumria, Mr. Sujit Sahu, and Ms. Venu Vashisht, for taking out time today. I also like to thank our sponsors, Gold Partner Skyways Group, Silver Partner Ethics Group of Companies, Lanyard Partner Gear India, and Associate Partner Excel Supply Chain Solutions. Thank you, everyone who joined the virtual event today. Have a superb rest of the day and a Happy New Year once again. See you at the event on the 19th January at Hotel Leela Ambience Gurugram for the main event. Please register yourself for the event. Registration details will show up on the screen now. Take care and bye bye.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.